Hello, my dear folks. Welcome to the show. Jack Chow hosting the East West show, exclusively sponsored by BP Oreso, best known for their internationally renowned Italian men's style suits, such as the one I'm in. A beautiful jacket, isn't it? And Oreso, the golf series, which is one inside. Now I'm equipped from inside out. Thank you for sponsoring. Okay, now we are talking about social issues again. Remember, back a few months we had a show with the title that you will know, they will know. Now we do number 2 of They Will Know. So with me is my good friend, old friend, Lisa Mayo.
Hi.
Right? She is the founder and the CEO of the big organization, which makes a lot of sense to me, of They Will Know, quote unquote, They Will Know. And my new friend, Mark Ozog.
Correct.
And he is an actor. By looking at the face, you almost came to the conclusion that he is an actor, all right? To both of you, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
I know this is going to be a very light-hearted subject, yet regarding a profound issue of our society. Am I right?
Correct.
Very good, right?
Yes.
So we do it in a artistic way to promote our awareness of what we have as problems of this society, especially in terms of women and children. Am I right?
That's
okay,
correct.
very good. And I believe to my audience who see you for the first time, though, you owe them a little background information about you yourself, your organization, and why they will know, and what will they know, stuff like that. Can we please?
Well, I started my working with children and teens about 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just about to teach them about domestic violence and how to prevent it, the 25 signs.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that when I was just standing in front of them trying to teach them, it wasn't really sinking in.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't until I decided to start writing skits
Mm-hmm.
that I started at the Boys and Girls Club.
I see.
And so then they started like saying, can we bring the boys in? Because it was only girls. So all of a sudden it just grew. But when it grew, then other nonprofit organizations started asking me, oh, can you come and do this over here? And can you come? So I started booking meetings and educational meetings with the teens and the young adults, young married couples.
I see.
So then I walked in late to one meeting where they were discussing about domestic violence and they wanted to have a performance. And they had invited me to come to the meeting. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure I can write a play on that. And they said, how long will it take you to bring the scene 1? I said, give me about a week. I could probably come with it.
I recall last time you were doing busy rehearsals, right? Okay. That was about sometime back in the springtime, right?
Yes.
During the springtime.
Going
right?
through the schools,
Yeah, sure.
asking for
Right.
kids to come in.
Yeah, sure. I don't want my new friend
Oh,
Mark to
no,
feel
I've got a
lonely,
lot
right?
to
It's
tell
like,
him.
lots.
I
Hey,
want to
Mark.
bring him into
Once again, you're very welcome to the show. And
Thank you for having me.
your involvement with They Will Know, please.
Well, I don't know if it was at that first. It was at that
That
first.
first-
One. Okay, so I was introduced by a friend at the time where I was living in the San Fernando Valley in Studio City, and one of my actor friends is like, oh, I have a friend who's a director, and she's directing this play on domestic violence, but it's all the way in Montebello. And I'm like, where's Montebello? So he drove me out to Montebello, and then I met Lisa, and we were doing these plays, and it was over at Spa 7. And no, it was just that one play.
All right.
But it was the thing that was getting to me was that it was for a benefit. You know, this is unusual. It's a play, but it's for a purpose, as opposed to just putting on a play just to
right.
have casting directors and producers and whatnot come. There was a purpose behind it. And that first play we had at Garfield High School in East Los Angeles. And with all the promotions, they only anticipated maybe over 100 people. They had over 800. 800 people came to this event on a Saturday
that's
to
quite a
watch the
turnout
play.
already, yeah.
Yes, and 100, correct me, 134.
138.
138 asked for help as a result of that.
I see.
As a result of that,
I see.
you know, and my intention wasn't when I first came to LA 20. Go ahead.
Sure, sure. To both of you, I just wrapped a show with the title of, how you call it, social justice advocacy, right? And I believe, coincidentally, you guys fall in the same ballpark, right? It is social justice we're talking about, right? So, as everything, I believe even 17 years ago when you started, you did see some kind of environment that drags you in, say, hey, I need to do that, right? So to look at the picture, bigger picture of the society though, how do you see the necessity of your program? They will know.
Well, like all good writers, you only can write what you do know. And so I was a domestic violence victim, but I was also a domestic violence survivor. So my plays are really meant to bring the reality of what is happening in a situation, but how you can survive it. And you can become a better person, a different person. How can you help others in need? And that's the path that I chose. When I stood in front of the teens, it wasn't just to speak to them and say, okay, these are the statistics. No, I had to speak from my heart and say, okay, but look at where I'm at now. See how far I have gotten. What have I done to change things?
That's an indication.
Yes. And then when I met Mark, and I cast him as the one that had all of the signs of domestic violence, every single one of them. And he did such a great performance that people kept saying to me, you've got to bring him back. Oh my gosh, he just really is he really that mean? And I kept saying, no, he's really a nice guy.
Question to Mark though, what is your involvement both in the program and in the performance piece?
Well, like Lisa was saying, you know, I kept on coming back. I mean, I remember that even after that first time, it was like, okay, I'm going to come back. But then I was coming back for a show in Hollywood or Redondo Beach or Norwalk, and then eventually we even did it all in Spanish. Yeah, that was an experience. It was.
Oh, that's good.
Hablo el español. So, but yeah, it was an experience.
You speak a little Spanish?
Español.
You do?
They speak 7 languages though.
Gracias. That's all I know.
Okay.
About Spanish, yeah.
But she gave me the most ruthless role, and I've always had the ruthless role. But I'm like the nicest guy.
The ruthless role, yeah.
The ruthless role.
You were not a nice guy.
No, I was not a nice guy.
All right, good. You look like a bad guy.
Okay.
He books a lot of jobs without being a big guy.
So we see now, you see, and she sees, and I do see, that domestic violence is something needs to stop. All right? And I believe the Americans across the country, they learned about that. That did something that should never happen. Why it is still coming? Why it is still happening?
It's got to do a lot
I see
with
lots
the
of that.
circles of life.
Circles of life.
Yes, it
What do you
comes
mean by
from
circle?
your family, what you grow up with, what you know. If you are with a parent that drinks a lot, it's an everyday occurrence. You'll start drinking. You will carry that on. Your children will start seeing you drinking. They will carry it on. So there has to be an educational stopping at one point and saying, you know, alcohol is not good for you.
Some kind of a negative heritage, right? Negative heritage, right? So what part did you play? What part did you play in the show as a bad guy?
Oh, Tony, the wife abuser. Tony, the wife abuser. Right.
So you're the abuser?
Yes.
You were the abuser.
Yeah.
How did you abuse her?
Physically, mentally, psychologically. You know, and I believe that you base this off of one of your relationships when you were younger, right? And yeah, so do I correspond close to that person?
Very.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe method actor, I don't know.
All right.
But something that you brought up is, I think for the most part, people in our society, they want to shun away from this and they don't want to accept it. Oh, there's nothing wrong. It will work out itself. But with an organization like They Will Know, we're there to help you. Like in that situation
Okay,
where
very good.
138 people sought help. Yeah.
I'm very glad, my dear audience, for the fact that there are lots of people who advocate for our society called social justice. In this case, we're talking about a war fighting against domestic violence, right? Let's do a national war. Let's do a national war that is so necessary to protect our women and our kids. Women are supposed to be loved, aren't they?
Yes.
Right? To my philosophy, they are the features that are supposed to be loved, not to be hated, not to be beaten, so on and so forth. Anyway, there are lots of profound meaning in it, why it should happen, what we should be aware of that, and how we can prevent it. So let's take a very short moment now. When we come back, we'll get that from Mark and from Mayo, please. All right, Lisa Mayo. So stay with us. Hello, my dear folks, my dear fellow Angelinos. Welcome back to the East-West Show, exclusively sponsored by BP Aristo, best known for their internationally renowned men's style suit, Italian style men's suit. And that suit itself, for example, this one is applying the nanotextile technology, which in a microscopic way, they did something to the to the wire, to the fiber, so the fabric is water resistant. If you spill something on it, like coffee, soda, it flows away, right? Oh. It rolls away, all right? And their golf series, BP Aristo, is also a wonder. You try it, you will never regret. So thank you for sponsoring. Back to the show. With Mark and Lisa, we are touching the subject of domestic violence, which is a big one. I happen to have a neighbor. You hear them, the beautiful screams all the time, and you see the cop cars all the time around the house. You see the kids crying on the streets and stuff like that. And it's really, really an eyesore to our democracy. So with Lisa, I would say, thank Lisa for first recognize the issue, and number two, for putting together some efforts. And thank you, Mark, for joining her to make it so vocal, even though in the show, actually on stage, you were performing a bad guy, Tony, but I know you're a good guy for sure, right? Okay. Very good. Okay, now, my whole point is that, like exactly Mark just mentioned, you could physically abuse a woman, right? You could mentally abuse a woman. So how do you define the mental abuse, please?
Well, if I said to you every day, you're worthless, but I love you just the way you are, you'd get a double message.
Okay.
But if I told you you were worthless day in and day out, and what am I doing with you? Your esteem would start going down. You'd start losing your own faith in yourself. You would start to not love yourself.
Okay.
So those
You're
are the
saying
big
that your mind, the woman's mind, is being tortured on a day-to-day basis, right? And then she herself will become a totally different person. She will think the way that she is worthless, like that kind of thing, right? So in the show, though, Mark. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. In the show, the bad Tony. What the bad Tony do?
Well, the bad Tony just physically abuses his wife mentally. He's a drunk and doesn't want to be with her, but makes her feel bad, like you're gonna be with me, or you're not gonna be with anyone else. And that's a low self-esteem. Well, I can't leave. I'm frightened to leave this guy Tony. And that's the kind of person he is, and we see this in all society today. Maybe even in your neighbors.
Yeah. I see. Is there a financial connection to this abuse? Because this woman is so depending on her so that, well, out of the door, she will have nowhere to go. Was that or could that be the situation?
Of course, that's always the fear, especially if he doesn't let her get out of the house to have a job, and there has no way of getting any kind of income. Little does she know is that there is programs out there that can help her out, that if she chooses to leave, that there is. So which is one of the things that I do within, not only in the performance, I also get other nonprofit organizations to come in and distribute pamphlets, flyers, anything that's going to help the person that has just seen the play, because maybe they're there to see it and they're, oh, I know a friend of mine that has that problem. I could give her this flyer. So I get other, I get very, I'm community oriented, so I get the community involved in all of the production.
In other words, to the victims, you want to make it aware that help is available.
Yes.
Including financial help.
Yes.
Including a shelter or a
Yes.
roof.
Yes.
Including food.
Yes.
Including their kids.
Their
safety. That they worry, right?
Yes.
All right. Okay. That's good. And also on the other side, Mark, they're saying that what she's saying is that to educate the society, to motivate them to look around who might be a victim and tell them help is available. Am I right?
That's correct. But there's no gender lines. I know we were talking about the guy abusing, but also women do too. You know, maybe not physically.
You know what? I want to give you a special thank you for that, because I do have a good example. All right, I do have a good example. A friend of mine, quote unquote, when I learned about her story, when I learned her story, I refused to see her again because of the story. She married a Caucasian who has a little problem, not to the extent of abusing. And she herself started to abuse him instead. Okay. Every time she pushed him to a corner, when I say push, I say verbally, right? Push the corner, the man was kind of like ready to explode. She started scratching her face. What's your next move? And thirdly, she picks up the phone. The man gets on his knees right away, forgive me, please, begging her. So that's the kind of you mentioned there is no gender line, all right? And thank you for saying that. So you beautiful ladies never do that, you know. I really hate it. When I heard her story, I was so shocked, and I never returned to seeing her again. So how do you, at your organization, educate people about the gender line, which never existed?
Well, when I produced a film, actually even before I produced a film, one of the plays, well, pretty much all the plays except for the one that we're having at the red carpet event, I did have a female be aggressive toward a male. Mm-hmm. And I showed that it's not just female being abused, but it's also males being abused. Mm-hmm. And it was, surprisingly, I had to add humor to it, because most women would be like, oh no, that's not possible. You know, maybe women go through denial. Mm-hmm. So I put humor into it to make the man you could see the weaknesses in a man.
It sounds like an interesting script already, right?
And Judy Chu, when she came to see the film, when I showed it, a clipping of it, she asked me, where did you learn, who's the psychologist that helped you with the script to write about and because she's a psychologist.
She is. She's a doctor.
No, I wrote that myself. Because I wanted to be able to show it both in the female.
You got a psychological mind. All right, good.
But it was like, yes, it was important to be able to show both genders. And also in my films and in my plays, I don't just have a Caucasian, and I pick all cultures in there, because it's a universal problem. It's not just an American problem, an Asian problem, a Hispanic problem.
You know, Mark, exactly. Thank you, Lisa. Exactly from Chu did I learn the fact that there is that gender line that never existed in domestic violence. It was one time, back then I was a reporter. I was covering an event of Judy Chu. She was with the assembly back then. It was totally a message to awaken the society, the community, that men could be abused too. And all right, so now he mentioned that there is no gender line. Okay, for that, I especially call your attention or check with you. Do you take our law enforcement officers as the community that needs to be educated with this new concept? So next time when they walk in the door, without asking, they do not arrest the man first. Go ahead, please.
Well, interestingly enough, in this production that I'm doing, I have gotten the help of actors, Covina Police Department, and the West Covina Police Department. So I've got them.
I know their chief.
Well, he's the one that helped me get the Dave Sifling from West Covina Police Department and Mark Kuhn from the Covina Police Department. And they're actors that are coming in. They're policemen, but they're coming in to act in the play to help me out because they believe in also helping to
She
teach
does
about
get the
domestic
law
violence.
enforcement officer involved.
Yes,
Thank
I
you for
do.
that. Thank you for that.
Yes, she does.
All right,
get
very
everybody
good.
involved.
My dear audience, I give credit of this show to my dear friend Lou Arredondo. She is my, I call her liaison. I'm not degrading her. I'm talking about bigger help with the community issues.
Oh
right?
my gosh, yes.
Last
she
time
is.
it was her, Lou Ann Arredondo, who brought Lisa Mayo here, that I first learned the word who they will know. And now this time again with Lou. Thank you, Lou. If you happen to be watching, here's my salute. All right.
Hi,
So,
Lou.
all right, good.
Hello.
All right, let's take a short moment out. When we come back, we keep digging in the whole pack of domestic violence. What significance it holds in the package? Stay with us, please. Hello, my dear folks, my dear fellow Angelinos. Welcome to the East-West show, exclusively sponsored by BP Aristo, best known for their internationally renowned Italian-style men's suit, and like this, and their Aristo golf series, and I'm wearing one shirt. So thank you for sponsoring. They are, the Paul Batelli, Big Aristo company, they are a big advocate for the community, for the social justice too. So they support all the upbeat programs. So thank you for being that. So with me, my new friend, Mark Ozog, and then an actor, and good guy 99% of the time, except 1% when he is on stage, he's playing a bad guy. He does look like a bad guy, doesn't he? Oh, come on, I'm kidding, all right? I look like a bad guy. And with me, Lisa Mayo, and she is a founder and a CEO of a big organization and big program called They Will Know. 17 years ago, when she started the organization, she thought she will be advocating for women. Later on, she found out, how about their kids? How about their kids that brought up in the environment that, there's a fight every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, all right? There's a war every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, something like that kind. And you got psychologically destroyed in that environment. And also, like Mark mentioned, there is no gender line in between men and women to talk about domestic violence. With Congresswoman Judy Chu, many, many years ago, I first heard about the term, and she mentioned about no gender lines. And coincidentally, when Lisa wrote the script, you did write the script, right, of the film, and caught Dr. Judy Chu's eye, say, oh, she has a major in doctorate on psychology. Am I right? So asking her, where did you get this idea? Like that thing. So what exactly the film is called about? Is there, what title is that?
It's Circles of Life.
Circles of Life. What do you mean by circles of life? Is the circle within the family, or a circle interrelate the family to the society?
Circle of Life just basically means that what you learn from your parents, you will carry forward to your children.
Oh, that's true.
And to your children, to your grandchildren. And so unless they're educated and learn the things that are to be stopped, like if they grow up with alcoholic parents, some kids will say, I'm not going to be involved in that. I'm going to get away from that. So they break away from that. And they realize that there are other people that lead a very different life from that. But what if they still see it and they're like, oh, okay, well, I can have a drink. Oh, my parents don't mind. And then it goes forward, and then the kid sees their parent drinking. I can drink too, why not? And if they don't see any moderation in any of the things they think, then it's going to become a circle of life. And it's the same thing with domestic violence. Kids see it, they go to school, they start bullying other kids because they think that that's normal, because they see the father.
They think that's cool.
They think it's cool, but they themselves, the bulliers, are very insecure.
You're right.
So they have to not be able to discuss it with their parents, because what if the father decides to raise his hand against the child, or the mother is too weak to defend the child? So then he's got to go out and show his aggression to the schools, and so then there's a bullier. So then it becomes a.
So what you're saying is that whatever happens inside this family goes out, and if it goes out, it influences the rest of the folks.
That's correct.
For kids, they copy each other, right? Oh, that's cool. And then they go that way. And then when they sometime become parents, though, they will teach their kids the same way, right? So we all say, Mark, that there is a connection between alcoholism and domestic violence. And also drugs have a big part to play with it. So what's your take?
Well, that's true. Because if you think most cases of drug abuse and alcoholism has to deal with self-esteem, with depression, with maybe they're not doing what they want to do, or they're not happy with their life, so they have this alternative life of I'm going to drink because it's going to soothe my unhappiness, or I'm going to take drugs because it's going to soothe my happiness. And then if the child sees that from a very early stage, and maybe there's no hope for them, they're going to follow in steps of their parents, and this is going to be passed down, and that can lead to being an abusive relationship.
Exactly. So in your part, the part you're playing, Tony, is he alcoholic?
Yes.
He is?
Yes, he is.
To what extent?
Every day. Every day drinking, and then abusing his wife, hitting her.
Yeah. And I do believe that alcohol is also a controversial, right? When you celebrate, you need it, right? When you feel sad, you need it. When you become a loser, you need it, right? So next time, if you had a chance, you can go ahead, quote unquote, mean that alcohol is more used by losers than winners. Am I right saying that? Or if I'm right saying that, you can go ahead, quote unquote, feel free, quote unquote, me.
The only thing I would say is maybe they're the ones that abuse alcohol, the losers, but I don't know this.
The more they abuse, the more the losers they become, right?
Well,
so you agree with me?
Well, if you're told you're a loser, and if you believe you're a loser, then you're probably going to drink because you already feel bad that you're a loser.
You're right.
But
and after drinking a certain amount of alcohol, you become an even bigger loser. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct. Because they've already gotten to that point of where they're like, well, I'm no good for this world. So why don't I make a point of showing the world that how bad I really am? It just depends on all of these where people or your mother doesn't give you a lot of nurturing and love, and your father doesn't show you value as to who you are. I was really blessed. My dad used to always say how what a princess I was, how beautiful I was. He'd give me lots of love and hugs and kisses. I find out later on that some of my friends never got that from their father, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, you're right.
But my value is set on that my dad thought enough of me to tell me every day when I was with him how valuable I was.
All right.
And then I had a mother who...
You're lucky to have a father of that nature. Yeah. And your mother?
My mother was the opposite. She didn't really express her thoughts, but she did drink. But I always knew she loved me. But that still doesn't excuse the fact that she did drink a lot.
Exactly. Mark, to share something, because we're all men, right? To look back into your childhood, though, I came to a conclusion that you meet somebody talking for 5 minutes or something plus minus, you will probably guess out what kind of environment he or she grew out of.
Oh,
Am I right?
That sounds great. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Yeah.
See, that's almost a logic. That exactly echoes with her cycle. What is that? Circles of life. It's a circle. When you see that behavior, and you know that it is a ring of the circle, and it goes back all the way to the family who the father, grandfather, great-grandfather ever started. Am I right?
That's correct.
It's a tradition.
It's a tradition.
Very
It has to be broken, but it can only be broken through education, bringing awareness.
I see. All right. Okay.
So.
Okay. So today is one of the very rare chance we touch the social problematic side, yet in an artistic way, right? Because we have an actor who is playing a bad guy in the film called Circle of Life, and we have the screenwriter, the producer, the director of the whole thing, Circle of Life. So what is the premiere day, please?
September the 17th, it's going to be a red carpet event.
Oh, it's coming.
Yes, it is.
Oh, where?
At the Covina Center for the Performing Arts.
Oh, Covina Center Performing Art. Okay, good. Is that free admission?
No, that one, since it's a red carpet event, tickets will have to be purchased. But I do have another day set aside just strictly for the teens to come in and see the play at no charge for them. And I do have Disney tickets and other.
What's the length?
It's about an hour and a half.
An hour and a half. It's a feature story. Isn't it?
But it's gonna, I'm so happy there's teens that are in the community
that
I was able to cast them so they learn hip hop and there's
all right.
singing and dancing and because life is like that. Life is not always downhill. It got its ups and downs. So I want to make sure to bring it
Life is to be danced about, sang about, right? Not to be hated about, right? Because you live only once. Right? Only once. Okay, my dear audience, today, very rare chance. Oh, by the way, I need your website in case my audience needs some tickets, please.
Yes, it's www.theywillknow.org.
Okay, www.theywillknow, altogether one word, .org, right? So the premiere day, September the 17th.
And there's going to be a reception.
All right, and there's a reception. It's getting better. Reception 6:30 to 7:45. That's a 1 hour and 15 minutes. Performance 8 o'clock. Right?
Yes, it's a red carpet event.
Okay, my dear audience, there's lots of good news keep coming. So the credit goes to Lisa Mayo. She is the founder and scriptwriter and the director and the producer of the beautiful film Circles of Life that unveils the fact of domestic violence, and also the big actor. His name is real name Mark Ozog. his the real name in real life. 99% of real life, he is a good guy. The 1% when he was playing in the film, a bad guy, the abuser who is the alcoholic or druggie probably, and that beats the wife and that pushes himself to the corner. All right. So, to both of you, thank you very much. Let's take a very short moment out. When we come back, we really have to pick one important issue, that is drugs. So stay with us. Hello, dear folks. Welcome back to the East-West Show, exclusive sponsored by BP Aristo, Paul Battaglia, known best for their internationally renowned Italian-style men's suit using nanotextile technology, and also their Aristo golf series that combines life, sports, and fashion. All right, so thank you for sponsoring, by the way. Okay, today we're talking about a big subject, domestic violence. It is a big subject. People try to denounce it. People try to get away from it. But there are people who are getting into it, such as Lisa. Getting into it not a negative way, the positive way. She gets into the issue of domestic violence. She gets it to bring message out to the community to understand how seriously that problem is, right? So, Lisa Mayo, thank you very much for coming. Once again, welcome to the show. The film that she, number one, wrote the script, number two, produced it, number three, directed, is called Circles of Life. And it's a big film that's going to be premiered on the 17th of September. And if you go www.theywillknow.org, you will find all the info. And also the male role, number one role, played by my friend Mark Ozog, and he is a good guy, even though he plays the bad guy Tony in the film. So the credit goes to them. The credit goes to those people who are brave enough to get into the problem, not getting away from it, right? Okay, now, my last question. Now that we discussed about the relationship of alcohol to behavior, put it that way, right? So we'd better touch also the fact some drugs to behavior. Take marijuana, for example, and there's a huge word saying that in November, this coming November, it's going to be legalized. So my worry, my concern is that regardless of legalizing it and not legalizing it, marijuana is a marijuana. It functions medically the same way to the brain. Am I right? So now, how do you comment about the possible legalization? And my concern is that Tony might get an easier chance to get hold of some marijuana in addition to alcohols. Your take?
Well, from what I understand, is that anytime you take a drug, like even if you take marijuana, you will eventually promote yourself to another heavier drug. And so it doesn't just stop at one, it'll end up getting into more serious drugs. And then that's where the teens will start having a high rate of suicide, because that is one of the things that kids start out with pot, and then they go from there.
Well, even worse, there are newer stuff on the street that you can easily get overdosed. Right.
And so I think it just will progress. I don't think it's a good idea, but I don't know how it can be stopped, because they consider it like almost like alcohol, I think. But I don't think
Worse than alcohol.
It is.
Worse
I
than
would think it's
alcohol.
worse than alcohol.
Well, worse than alcohol.
But
All
I'm not for it because I don't think it's good for the teens
good.
to get it easily, because they're so young and their brains are just being developed at that time. And you know, as youngsters, we don't really make the right decisions for our life. So I would hope that parents would be there watching.
All right,
out for
thank you,
their
Lisa.
kids.
Thank you very much for pointing that out. To Mark, so what's your take about the legalization, very possible legalization of marijuana use?
Well, I mean, it's very controversial. I mean, I could see it from both ends, and from what Lisa says is true. In the 10 years that we've put on these productions, there was nothing really touched about drugs. It was more about alcohol, about beer drinking and liquor and whatever. To me, it's situational. I mean, I've known some people that have had health problems, like on deathbeds, and they've had marijuana and they're living today. But I could see it from the abusive standpoint. So it can go either way, but it would just have to be controlled, like alcohol is controlled.
But the problem is that the green light for medical use, medical purpose, is still there. It should never, never, never go away. In other words, if I'm a patient and I need to take marijuana, my doctor will prescribe me and I can have it. So why, on top of that, you legalize it for recreational use? Recreation, notice the word recreation. Do the Tony recreating himself?
No, it's gonna,
when he abuses his wife.
He's gonna abuse him more.
Why? Sure,
Yeah.
sure. That the answer is that he's gonna abuse more. Do you believe so about your own character that you wrote about the Tony?
Yeah, I believe that any kind of, I mean, he's already a very angry human being because he had issues with his, I'm going to see that I know the backstory.
Yeah.
So he saw his mother actually abuse his father, and he told himself, I'm never going to let a woman treat me that way. So then he saw his father drinking a lot, so of course he started drinking, and then if he started taking drugs, so, I mean, it started out with pot, and then later on it progressed. I think, though, that there should be an age limit as to who can have the recreational drug. Like alcohol, you have to be over 21 to get alcohol.
Oh,
you
good,
know, so
good,
why
good.
not do the same thing with pot? Make it so that a certain age can have it, and not recreational for everybody.
And how about you put up something like similar to gun control? You have to indicate or show some good record before you can touch this marijuana. Because, for example, me, myself, someday I've decided to do some, well, after it's legalized, and then I can show clean record that I never raped anybody, never beaten anybody, and never
you don't have
robbed
any
a bank.
felonies.
At least do something, right?
Yes.
Yeah, how I mean, do you agree with me? How you comment about that?
You mean as far as gun control?
Yeah, sure. At least they no. They put up something similar to gun control. The consumer of marijuana has to show up relatively clear record.
Right. I would think they would have to. I mean, I look at some place like, I mean, Utah, where you have to get a special license to purchase alcohol. Maybe that's what we need to set up here.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not.
Good. All right. Okay. All right. Well, of course, I don't recommend that we go back to the dry state, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about now California has gone this far. We're about ready. We are ready to legalize marijuana, and we do have, like 17 years ago, she witnessed the risk of society, the need of the community, so that she put out the organization. Now, once again, I believe you see that too. You see that again. Probably you should either include it into your program, or you have to establish another organization, right?
Yeah, since I was a chaplain at a hospice unit, I could see where a young man had a tumor in his brain and he was in a lot of pain. I could see why that person would want to take pot. I mean, I would think that that would be acceptable.
Sure.
I don't see why a 15 or a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old
Exactly.
would need to have that as a recreation.
All right. Very good. Very good point. For that, for the patient, for the tumor patient, whatever, we have the green light there already. Doctors can go ahead and do it, right? So, and I recommend, Tony, that together, I know together you guys create lots of positive things and the activities. And I would say that you will take serious look into the marijuana situation, which is going to cause a lot. You may use the word controversy, right? It is going to be more controversial as days go by. So, my dear audience, today we're talking about the domestic violence issue. From that on, we stretch a little bit to cover other problems. And there is a good film that I want to recommend. Is entitled Circles of Life, produced, written, directed by Lisa Mayo, and the main actor, Mark Ozog, and he's a good actor. And I joked with him, but I checked his record. According to the new law, that if you wanted to do marijuana, you got to show a good record. I checked with his record. He is okay to do so. No, I'm kidding. All right. All right. So, my dear audience, thank you very much for watching. I am very glad that you join me and we all together take care of the serious issue in a artistic way. And thank you, Lisa, for doing the same job. And thank you, Tony. Thank you for coming here for the show.
Thank you.